All right, Jed Johnson again. I'm here talking about some of the major takeaways that I got at the Juniata Strength Clinic last week. This is at Juniata College in Huntingdon, Pennsylvania. You can find it online. This is something they do every single year, and I've been there every year since, I believe, 2001, with the exception of 1 year when I was double scheduled or something like that. It might have been when I had my daughter. I'm not sure, but I believe I've missed 1 year. Love it. And this year was, I think, the best that it's been in a while. So, I've already put up one video of takeaways from the clinic. So if you missed that video, go ahead and click the link that's either on my screen or in the description box, and you can watch part 1. But right now, let's cover part 2, and you'll be able to see, be able to learn about some of the things that I took away. So the next is Greg Werner's talk from Virginia Tech, and he had a very good quote. It might have been like an infographic or like a meme or something like that up on his presentation, but here it goes. Getting strong is hard. Getting weak is hard. Pick your hard. So if you think about that, yeah, it gets tough to train and be consistent and reach your goals. There's a lot of difficulty there. But at the same time, if you just give up and stop training and become weak, well, there's all kinds of other challenges that go along with that too. So which one do you want to choose? You want to choose avoiding the struggle of strength training and trying to attain your goals and then becoming weak and detrained and a liability for yourself? Or do you want to continue to push through, not give up, and with the hopes of one day reaching your goals? Which one would you choose? I personally choose, the hard that I choose is going for strength, going for the goals that I lay out for myself, and I hope that is the choice that you would make as well. So that was the one thing I got from Greg. I'm sure there were other things, but that's all I wrote down for him. Next was Mike Craven from True Fitness Solutions, and this was very interesting. He talked about hydration, dehydration, heat stresses, things along those lines. This is something that I've been aware of quite a bit all through my athletic career, playing baseball in the summer. Many times it was very, very hot, and always put emphasis on drinking plenty of fluids. We always had big jugs of water. We had access to sports drinks, things along those lines. And you're probably moving in the right direction with those things, according to Mike Craven. But there's something else that you need to know, and this is something that I don't ever remember hearing much about as far as when I was in athletics. Also, for years when I worked at the beef plant in town, I was the trainer for the safety stuff, and we would often do training about the importance of hydration in the summer months because it gets very, very hot out in certain areas of production at that company. But this never came up. So basically, if your VO2 max levels are insufficient, then you can drink as much as you want to, and you can still end up having a problem due to the fact that basically your oxygen management system is what operates the cooling system in your body. So if your heart can't pump enough blood throughout the area, throughout the body, then you don't get blood to the right areas that will trigger your sweat glands to start producing sweat. And I'm sure that there's much more involved in that, and I really just hit it from like the very, very peak of the mountain, and there's much more information there. But that is, I thought that was pretty interesting information. I'd never heard that before. So if you are an athlete or a coach and you promote good hydration practices, proper rest, things along those lines, that's good as a start, but it's only half the battle. So make sure that cardio and always improving your VO2 max scores is part of your training, and something that you're thinking about on a regular basis, because it is very important in order to make sure that that system is maximized. All right, next, went to a talk by Bobby Fisk out of NJIT. And one of the things that he talked about that I thought was a real good idea was clusters. And I see this as a way to make the most of limited time in the gym. So, you know, he called clusters basically mini sets, and often they'll do sets of 2. So if you can imagine, just using bench press as the example, you go ahead, unrack the bar, you hit 2 reps of sub-maximal, but you know, fairly high percentages, and then you re-rack the bar, rest for 20 seconds, and then you do another set of 2. Rack the bar, rest for 20 seconds, a set of 2, and this enables you to get a lot of good quality work in a very, very short amount of time. You can basically hit several sets inside just 1 or 2 minutes. So I thought this would be very good for me, because when I have a couple groups that are very, very large that I train. You know, large is relative, okay? So I might have 5 or 6 people, right? That's large for me because I train in the area that you can see here. And there's not much space behind the camera. It's a very small facility here. So I see this as value because I could really knock out some of the big lifts very, very quickly, and that would enable me to get quicker changeover and get everybody through everything quickly, because right now I have very diverse strength levels, and I have some people that you know, the spread between my lowest bencher and my heaviest bencher is probably a good 100 pounds. So when you have 5 or 6 people that are doing bench press and you've got to change weights back and forth, covering a span of 100 pounds or more, you can really eat up a lot of time just by changing the weights. So I see this as a really big opportunity for me, and it could be for you too if you have a similar situation. And then the last thing I'll talk about, and I'll just touch on this quickly because I'm going to do a longer detailed coverage of this particular talk at thegripauthority.com. I saw a talk by Todd Berkey, and he is from Youngstown State, and he spoke on RPR. All right, the letters are RPR, Reflexive Performance Reset. I've got all kinds of notes on this one. This was awesome. Now, here's the thing. I asked my friend Jerry Schreck, hey, which one are you going to? Because there were at least 2, sometimes 3 different presentations going on all at the same time. So he said he's going to go listen to Todd Berkey. I was like, oh, what's he covering? I didn't have the list in front of me. He goes, voodoo. I'm like, voodoo? What do you mean? He's like, you should go check out the talk. So that had me intrigued. Sounded like something that I hadn't heard about before. Obviously, he wasn't talking about voodoo. He was talking about this RPR. But it is some pretty cool stuff that you might not have heard about. Now, here's the thing about this. I go to the seminar. I'm in maybe 5 minutes into it, listening to Todd Berkey. I'm like, wait a minute, this sounds awful, awful familiar. And as it turns out, when I was at FitCon in March, the night before FitCon, I'm at the gym and I started talking shop with Frank Minkst. He's the operating manager at the gym down there. It's like Extreme Iron Pro Gym, I believe. And he ran me through a few things which I would have described mainly as very aggressive, deep tissue massage. And what he would do is he would test one of my joints. Basically, for instance, one of them would have been hip flexor strength. So he tested me, and it was very hard for me to overcome the pressure that he was putting on my knee and my chest. So then he did this really aggressive massage on my hip flexor, and he even got into my diaphragm, got deep inside my diaphragm, like under my ribs. This hurt bad. It was like extreme tickling, okay? It was like a tickling sensation, but I had to like do Lamaze breathing in order to get through it. So, but then after he did this, then when he tried to hold me down, the strength that I was able to produce out of my hip flexor and kind of like this like leg lift slash crunch action, like there's no way he could hold me down. It was just like instantaneous increase in strength due to all this activation that he was producing. And he did like 3 or 4 of these with me, and each one of them produced really favorable results. So as Berkey is going over all this information, I'm like, man, this seems familiar. So I texted Frank Minkst and I asked him, hey man, what was that stuff called that you did on me when I was down to FitCon? And sure enough, it was RPR, Reflexive Performance Resets. I'll tell you what, and the best thing about Juniata is the presenters don't just run off behind a curtain once they're done. Many of the people that are talking are actually attending the seminar, so you can track them down and follow up with them. And I found out a couple cool activation strategies for grip strength that I'm currently testing out to see how they'll work for me. So those, like I said, I'm gonna cover that stuff in more detail at thegripauthority.com. So I encourage you to check that out, at least for that seminar, let alone the hundreds and hundreds of other topics that are already posted there. The content there is amazing. But that is Juniata College 2017, some of the highlights that I wanted to bring to you. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment below. I'm not a subject matter expert on any of this stuff necessarily, but maybe I can put you in touch with the people who actually gave the talks. For some of these folks, I wrote down their email address or their website. All right, I hope you enjoyed these videos. Again, there's 2 of them, so if you only watched this one, go back and watch the other one. I'll put the link in the description box. And be sure to subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and by all means, leave a comment. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on some of the topics that I talked about in these videos. All right? Thanks a lot, everybody, for your time. All the best for your training. Take care.